Hello. Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We're about to start our Central Committee meeting for today. So I want to welcome everyone here this afternoon. And I extend a cordial welcome to the members of the committee, to those present in the room, and to the public who are following our proceedings via radio, Facebook, and other media. This meeting of the Central Committee is duly convened in accordance with Article 8 of the Rules of Order of our Island Council Committee Ordinance. Before we continue, two members, Councilman Simmons and also Council Lady Lopes-Panner, are absent with notice. So first of all, I want to welcome all the committee members, and this our first meeting for the year 2026. Wish each and everyone a very happy new year. Hope you had an enjoyable change of the year during the holiday season. We continue with our agenda point number 2, announcements. Are there any announcements from the members of the committee? Okay, good indication. There are no announcements at this time. Then we go on to agenda point number 3, which is the setting of the agenda. The published agenda reads as follows: 1, opening; 2, announcements; 3, setting of the agenda; 4, ratification list of incoming documents; ratification list of decisions and commitments of our meeting of 6th of November and an extraordinary meeting on December 18. Number 6, announcements of the Executive Council. And then we go into a closed-door session with agenda point Island Ordinance Child Care, St. Eustatius. Verkeerd. Okay. So let us close the door. These down here. Okay, a little correction in the agenda. All right, I'll start over again. The agenda as presented. Number 1, opening; 2, announcements; 3, setting of the agenda; 4, ratification of list incoming documents; 4, ratification of the list decisions and commitments from our meetings of November 6 and the extraordinary meeting of December 18. Number 6, Island Ordinance Child Care, St. Eustatius. Number 7, Framework Establishment Foundation, Statia 2026. Number 8, announcements of the Executive Council. And that ends the public part of the meeting. Then we go into a closed-door session. Did I mention these? Yeah. Closed-door session where we will handle agenda point 9, travel dates of the Island Council for 2026. Number 10, update on legal matters. And number 11, closing. So that's the published agenda. Can the members find themselves in the agenda as presented? Are there recommendations for adjustments or change? No, I guess. Then we will adopt the agenda as presented. Agenda point number 4, ratification list incoming documents. In the documents received, you found the list of incoming documents for the Island Council. Are there any comments on the list of incoming documents? Agenda points 4. No comments on the incoming documents, and we will adopt them as presented. Number 5, agenda point number 5, ratification of the list of decisions and commitments from our meetings of November 6 and the extraordinary meeting of December 18. Again, are there any comments on the list of decisions and commitments from these two meetings? No. On this side also, no indication. So we will adopt these list of decisions and commitments from both meetings as presented. Agenda point number 6, Island Ordinance, Child Care St. Eustatius. For this agenda point, we will be handling Child Care Ordinance, translated in Dutch as Kinderopvangverordening. On the 1st of January 2026, the Child Care Act BES went into effect. Within this law, the quality of child care, finances, and enforcement are implemented. In this ordinance, there are a few aspects of the Child Care Act BES that have been drafted within this ordinance. To gain further insight into this ordinance, I will now ask the Commissioner responsible for Social Affairs, Mr. Merkman, to provide further introduction to this agenda point. Commissioner Ruben Merkman, I give you the floor to introduce this agenda point.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon to the listening public. Good afternoon to my colleagues in the House. Today we have before us the Child Care Act BES that became effective, as the Chairman said, the 1st of January 2026. And for the complete presentation on this, we have, I will ask Mevrouw Dekker to come and do the presentation on this. Basically, the Child Care BES Act is a law that went into effect, as you said, the 1st of January 2026. And she will elaborate on the law and how it relates to permits that will now totally be given out by the OLA, and any changes that is needed, you would have to go through to file the procedure, the complete procedure again. For example, we had a couple of child cares that moved around on the island, and they would move and OLA wouldn't really be aware of it. So now in this law, all of that is stipulated, how the complete process. You know, some of them would move and then you would find out after, you know, and even in the permits, that when a permit is given out, the permit is given out tied to a location currently now. And also in that, there will be a quality committee that will be looking at the qualities at the different daycares. There's a complete complaint procedure. We know that in any organization you have that there will be miscommunication. There could be miscommunication and people might become upset. And so we are trying to increase transparency by providing a complaints committee. And then there's also a parent committee that can give advice. But it's not for all daycares. If the daycare has more than 50 children, then they must also have a parent committee. And then, so I would like to, with your permission, allow Frau Decker to come in and give her presentation.
Okay.
Okay, after teach me the book. Go ahead. No, go ahead, Angela.
Okay, good afternoon. Thank you for having us. And I will give a short explanation based on what we have on there. It is about the Island Ordinance. The law, child care law, BES, started to be officially implemented this year, January 1st. And in some of the articles, they are there underneath, it states that there are certain aspects we as Island can give more rules and procedures for. And that's why, so to elaborate more. And I will mention this the operating permit that we in the Island Ordinance will have more specific rules and regulations for the Quality Committee, for healthy food, for the complaints procedure, and for the Parent Committee. The application, why we did it also, because it wasn't always very clear how this process goes. So in this, we made it very clear how the application goes. So the organization requests the island government for an operating permit. And before they send it to the island government, they have to have all the information, all the requirements, and you will get it in the booklet we just shared. You will get all the requirements. So we are not going into details on that now. And they can request that by the unit for permits. They have all of that and they can fill out a form. So the complete package goes to the island government, and then if that is complete, they get an answer from we received it and we're going to work on it. Then it goes to the Quality Committee, and the Quality Committee looks into it and then asks the island, the island person to go into it and to check if it complies with all the standards. And then she gives, or he, give advice to the Quality Committee, so that research is done then. And then with that advice, it goes back to the Quality Committee. And the Quality Committee then writes an advice to the island government. So it is still an advice. So if the island government has questions or want to change it, that's up to them. But then at least they followed all the rules they have to do. Yeah, this way? No.
No, this one.
Okay. Then I will give some explanation about the Quality Committee. The Quality Committee is a committee, and it consists of independent persons with relevant knowledge and experience in child care centers. We had one till the end of last year, because then it was part of the then basic island ordinance, and now we have this ordinance next to the law. So with only certain articles, because the law have all the articles. And the task of the Quality Committee is to give advice about the request of the permit. So then the inspector from childcare goes then to visit the center, or the centers, those who had requested it, and checks if everything based on all the rules and regulations is in place. And the inspector, as I just said, makes the report, and then it gives advice, the Quality Committee gives advice to the public entity. The permit, when the organization receives it, it must be visible at the location. So if as a parent you enter, or another organization enter the organization, it has to be clear that this childcare center works with the permit, and it has quite some pages, but what they can do, the first page where you have how many children you can have, what the location is, and phone number, so the most important information, but it's always must be visible. Then each center, childcare center, needs a complaints procedure, and that is for the parents if they have complaints. The procedure must be very clear. They must explain very clearly how they receive the complaint, who receives it, how they are going to do the investigation, and then a decision can be made. And they also have to make very clear that the measures are implemented. If we are giving, let me say this, they are giving support, getting support now, the centers, from a consultancy to make it in the right way. And if after all the procedures are followed and the parent still doesn't feel satisfied, then the parent can go to the island government, and then there are the organizations here. It can be via mediation or by the social domain where they can bring up their point. Then the childcare organizations need a parent committee, but only for those who have more than 50 children. The others also have to give proof that they inform the parent, that they have one way or the other parent meetings, individual contact. And the parent committee is also to give advice. The members do have to have children, so you cannot be a member of a parent committee if you don't have a child there. And those who work at the center cannot be part of the parent committee. So it is different from what we know from education, the PTA, the Parent-Teacher Association. The owner of the center is not part of the parent committee. The owner can decide, can say, okay, these are the rules, how I want you to work. They have their own meetings, and then they give advice on certain aspects. That is in the next one. So you can decide how many members, how they are elected, and how long they can remain a member. And the committee, so the parent committee, can give advice about pedagogical policy, so how they are dealing with the children, about nutrition, health and safety. And the operator, so that is the owner, the director, the manager, has at least once a year a meeting with the committee. And also in this aspect, all the centers get advice, legal advice on how to set this up. And formally, they have 6 months after they receive their permit to set up the complaint committee and the parent committee. This is it in brief. Thank you. Can go sit down.
That's it.
Unless you have questions.
All right, thank you, Frau Decker, for your presentation. Let me see what else we have. All right, so now that the presentation is concluded, we will go over to deliberations and questions for this agenda point. Okay, I'd just like to remind you of the Article 15 Rules of Order, the number of speaking times. Deliberations on subjects or proposals take place in no more than 2 rounds unless there are other suggestions from the committee. An Island Council Committee member can also make a proposal about speaking time to the Island Council, to the committee members. If there is no proposal for speaking time, the regular time is 20 minutes in the first round, 10 minutes in the second round. Okay, so we will proceed with the deliberations or questions, if you have direct, for the presenters or the commissioner. Speaking order is Council Lady Raquel Spanakati, Councilman Clyde van Putten, Councilman Glenville Schmidt. So, Council Lady Raquel Spanakati, I give you the floor in the first round of deliberations.
Thank you, Chairman Smith. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Ms. Decker, for your presentation. I just have 2 or 3 questions. I missed the part, I know you stated in your presentation that you all didn't go too in-depth in certain things, but I'm missing where you mentioned, maybe that will fall under quality, the requirements for persons working in a daycare. I know there has been a lot of effort and investment made in upgrading personnel, but I was wondering where in the ordinance I can find that, I don't know, a construction man can open a daycare and with no qualifications whatsoever. That was my first question. And my second question was that, culturally speaking, we are accustomed to persons at home that are maybe unemployed, taking care of the family's children. Are persons like that now exempt or not able to do this anymore in an informal setting? And if so, if that is still possible, was information provided to the community at large stating, well, for instance, if you just keep 2 children or 3, then you don't have to adhere to these regulations, etc. So that was it for me for now.
This question about the quality, as I mentioned, there is now a child care law, and in that law, everything about quality of personnel, of how the center looks like, etc., is in that, because the island ordinance now is only to give some extra addition, and these aspects we have now in the island ordinance. So that is only the parent committee, the complaints committee, and the permits. So, but if you want to have more background information about that, I don't know if we have time to explain that.
I didn't hear the question, so that's why I was asking. Can you repeat, please, if you don't mind? Yeah.
Maybe you can send it to me digitally as well. I was asking Mrs. Jack if there are also requirements on personnel training and what level you have to have, and not just what level, but maybe what you have to be able to do, like first aid, etc., you know, to keep children.
Okay, I can give a brief explanation. First, we started working on what we call a function description. What function do you have as a pedagogical worker in a child care center? And based on that, we gave also advice for salary scales, because you have a function, and then with that function goes responsibility and qualification. So the basic qualification is what we call level 2 in social pedagogical work. We have this course at GVP. We set it up specifically for this program. 6 years ago we started with it, and that is a 2-year course that then during work time they can follow that course, and then they are qualified on a level 2. Then the other qualification, but in the future that won't be enough. So there's also what we call a level 3, social pedagogical work. We had one course 2 years ago, it's finished, And we had a number of, I think, 16 persons working in childcare who followed that course. So then they have they have more responsibility in the center, not a function description. And then last week, we started with a level 4, and we have a group of 16 persons, and that course is for those who are going to give more attention to children with special needs, and also to have like middle management positions in the centers. For the bigger centers, that you can divide it in, maybe you have 2 groups that you are responsible for. Is that enough qualification? Okay.
The second part of my question?
The second was
Oh, yeah.
past elders.
Yeah. Okay. When you have, I think it is 5 or 6 or children or more, then you have to, could become a gastouder, guest parent. However, so if parents, grandmothers want to have children, look at children before, lesser than that, then it's okay. There's no regulations, no. And childcare is not mandatory. Yeah? It is the decision of the parent if you want to have your child in a childcare center. And maybe I didn't mention that with the permit. When we started, the centers existed already. So after some time, they got a permit when they met requirements, but now it is that you can only start if you have the permit. So you cannot just open and say, hey, I want to start a daycare center. No, you have to meet all the requirements.
But I also, sorry, if I can add to that, just as Ms. Decker said in the beginning, it is also up to the Executive Council if that permit will be granted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Council Lady Spanner, Carty. And our next speaker is Councilman Clyde van Putten.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee and the listening audience, the guests who are present, good afternoon. First of all, I want to say that I welcome that there is legislation, governing these institutions. I remember many years ago in Curacao, a lot of these type of daycare centers were showing up, and a number of them did not comply with a lot of their basic requirements, and we know that certain things had gone wrong, and there was an outcry on several occasions from the wider community. So I welcome it at this point in time. But Mrs. Decker, you mentioned that the law, and I assume that you're talking about the federal law, the child care law took effect from the 1st of January of this year. I think that's what I'm understanding. And then on top of that law, you're now asking the Island Council to put in place an island ordinance where the government would have some responsibilities, if you may, with the operation of these type of institutions that serves the community and basically help parents who are employed and who would need the necessary assistance and guidance. I am wondering because I see too often that we have a lot of these federal laws put in place, and they're more or less handed down to you and you don't have an input. I keep saying that the cultures are different. Holland is different to these islands. Sometimes some of us don't get it, but they are different. Even the islands are different. So I'm wondering that on the level of the island, I'm speaking about Stasia, that if we had any input, when the federal laws were made, were prepared, and eventually passed. You mentioned that the island ordinance will have to be adopted by the Island Council. we'll look at it critically, and if it falls within what I believe that the requirement should be, that I would give it my blessing. But I have some concern, I think, that maybe you touched on already. The adequate training of the personnel. How often is that taking place? Because we see in other levels of education here on the island, there are constant workshops, and they like to keep the teachers up to date with the different changes and innovations in education. So I'm wondering how often that one would see a constant training. And then indeed, over the years, we have seen a number of persons who have ventured into this. Some continued, others stopped. But from time to time, still there's a lot of complaint from parents with regards to certain development that take place within these institutions. And so I'm wondering, in terms of that ongoing training, if this law and eventually the Island Ordinance would basically cover it. And then you talk about indeed the situation where you have more now than ever a lot of children on the island with special needs. And sometimes I think that the teachers or the group leaders, whatever name you call them, sometimes they are not familiar, with children. Let's say if you have a child that have autism, they may not be trained in that particular field as to how they would deal with these children. And so I'm wondering what specific plans are in place in order to deal with this. Then you talk about the subsidies. Subsidies is given by the federal government, it is given by the local government. I know that some time back, there were some group coming from Holland talking about subsidies for the schools. And I know that a number of the daycare centers here were not happy, because it seemed like if you give them a certain amount of money and that child for whatever reason didn't show up for a certain amount of days in the month or whatever it is, then it seemed that they would not get that money, but the costs remain, because you have to pay for the group leaders and the other overhead costs. So I would like for you all to address that as well. Then the salaries of these individuals. I know that the first daycare on the island, that over the years there were never any structured stuff put in place in order to compensate them. I know that the salaries are very low, vacation monies, Christmas bonuses, and all of these things. I think the health insurance is no longer a factor, so there's a general health insurance on the island. And so I would like to know that if these people are required to carry out these responsibilities with the relevant training, that if something will be done, because I know in the Netherlands, the people get good pay in doing this type of job, working at daycare centers, as opposed to an island like Station. I don't know about the other island, but I'm talking about here. I think what we are getting is starvation wages. I will put it very blunt when I compare to what they are getting in the Netherlands. And so I would like to know that under this law and subsequently the Island Ordinance, that if we would see this area addressed in terms of salaries and other remuneration for the workers, and then a pension plan. Because I know that a number of these persons, despite the fact when you reach the noble age of getting your social security, yet if you would have worked in an institution like, for instance, the crèche just up the street here, I know that persons would have worked a number of years and the compensation is nihil. And so I would like to find out as well that with the coming of such a law, the laws in place just as effective the 1st of January of this year, if all of these things would be taken into consideration. Because what I have seen, and I don't want to be paradoxical, I said that I support the idea that we having a regulation for our children as well. But what I noticed is that on this island, the Dutch presents everything. they want the law and everything, maybe even when you, how many days of the month you should go to church and all the other things you should be doing. Holland is an expert in mandating and regulating, but when it comes around putting the monies in order to be able to assist the islands in doing it, it's not there. So I would want to make sure that whatever law is in place, that the government locally keeps saying that they don't have money. And like I said all the time, we have become a nation of beggars, everything we went to Holland for. So I would like to know that with the coming of this law, because every law and every action have a financial consequence to it, that with this law, if there is an annual subsidy or financial contribution from the federal government in Holland in order to be able to assist, because we have a lot of kids. I think there must be 3 or 4 of these institutions on the island, including the main one that we know from the very beginning. So I would want to make sure that if we have the law, that not just the burden is from here, but then there would be a structural contribution from the federal government as well. And I am not really one of those who believe in putting out the hand and begging. But they are collecting taxes in this country, and we don't know how much they are collecting. But we see the Dutch putting money all over the world, helping to kill people as well, and other clandestine operation as part of whatever they have. But when it comes around actually investing in the human, they find it sometimes very difficult to do. So with the law, I have no problem with it in principle, like I said, but I want to make sure that once it is there, that it will be able to be properly executed and with the necessary financial decking and backing, so that we don't put these foundations or institutions into any difficult situation. May it please you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman Van Putten. You want to answer?
I will start your first question, but I want to go back a little bit into history. I was just telling Carol, the first island ordinance for St. Eustatius for childcare we had before 2018. We had a meeting then in the old building where we were defending it. So that was our own island ordinance. Then after that came the program Best for Kids, and that was in 2019, and then we had to adapt the basic ordinance. There was not a big difference with the basic ordinance that we adapted then for Statia with what we had already, because we could bring in all those points we had already and we were experienced working with it. Then we started we had a basic ordinance because we had to start working, and then we started already 4 or 5 years ago working on a law. But we had sometimes twice a year that we had consultation meetings on the island, it were open meetings, everybody was invited to give their idea, article by article. So we did that. So to say yes, it is a law that is best law and it comes from the central government, but the input was a lot. The input, and not always, you don't always get what you want, but most of the points were taken into account. So that is how finally, and there's also an how you call it, an ANVB, how is it? Algemene wettenregel, all of that came along with it. But what we said then, okay, the islands are different, the 3 islands. We have this law that's general and that counts for all. However, Bonaire, Saba and Statia are different, so each island can then give more attention to the articles and give more rules and regulations. And what we had experienced, so that was also in consultation with the organization, like the requesting of the permit was always a challenge. And also the setting up of a parent committee. So that's why we said we make that extra clear and we give them also support to set it up. And it is even possible if, even if you have more than 50 children, but you can't get enough parents together, as long as you can prove that you do something to get the parents involved, then it's also okay. That was the first question, I think.
Yeah. And the second question was about the ongoing training of personnel.
Yeah, we have first what I mentioned in the first question from you about the qualifications. So we make sure we have a little bit of challenge. I say a little bit, I'm careful, with the training that is supposed to come from the GVP, because that is the 2-year course, that is the basic, and if you don't have the 2 years diploma of the 2 years course, you cannot go into level 3 or later level 4. So that is how you build up, because it's for persons who work and then they build it up. So yeah, we are working on that. We are working with the inspection and with the school to see, because we have right now, we have 10 students, 10 persons who did not receive their diploma, and what we understood, they finished the course. So that is a challenge we have, but with Commissioner last week we had a meeting and we are working on that to see. Yeah.
But I also want to add, besides the training of the CBQ 2, 3, and level 4, there's also regular training with an organization in the Netherlands by the name of Upstone.
Yeah.
So all of the pedagogical, I can't say that word, workers, they have twinning now and again, so they go to the Netherlands, they see what is happening there, but also the personnel from the Netherlands comes to station, works along with the different daycare centers so that they could exchange.
Yeah, and we give then also specific training, like when we see, hey, the observation doesn't go right, and that goes also a little bit in one of your last question, children with special needs. It starts with observing children the right way, make the right report, and then based on that say, hey, maybe this child needs some extra attention. So we have workshops every time on topics where we see, hey, this could be better. We also have what we call the high scope program. That is a program that is to extra stimulate children in their development. And we have now 2 local trainers to give that training. So that is then like 10 training, 10 workshops to have this training done. And then you can see in the centers, hey, they do really with the children what they have to do. And we also have in place a pedagogical coach. So the coach goes to all the centers, sometimes once in the 2 weeks, once in a month, to see if everything is in place and how it goes. And next to that, there's also a pedagogue. There's now an advertisement out, but anyway, we had it till December last year, who also is in the centers. Like last year, she gave a workshop on the special needs specifically for that. So we have, like now this month, we will have workshops. We work together with JOG, that is the health.
Jongeren op gezond gewicht.
Goed zo. Jongeren op gezond gewicht. Anyway, they are very active on Statia with the health department, and we work with them together. So like all our directors went to the Netherlands to see how it works there. Then they gave training here. We had discussion the whole year about, okay, you can have healthy food, but if you keep buying like apples, the expensive, and that you can also make use of your local fruits, your local vegetables. So we are in discussion with them, and this month again they will get training. The cook also get training in see how you can feed the children in a healthy way. So that is about training.
Maybe you can say a bit also about the pilot for the special needs and the support structure.
Yeah, we have. We started with it like 3 years ago. It was a decision of Statia to have a pilot, but I don't like the word pilot so much, but to start in one of the centers. The BCB is in the biggest one that time, with most children also in the age from birth to 4, with a special program for children who, I don't like to so much the word special needs, but where there are challenges in their development, and it can be very different. It can be, and they are very young, so it is not always possible to test, to diagnose. However, and that's where there comes the observation in, what we instructed then, we have observations that they do, then we have now at Busy Bees Inn, and there's a special subsidy for, we have an extra pedagogical worker, and we are looking into one more, and we have a sensory room where that person can maybe 2 hours in the day or an hour in the day go, take the child out and go in that sensory room. We furbish that, and that is really as it should be. So we are working on it, but we have 4 more years time to set it up in the right way. So we really, we got some subsidy for that, so we can really work with that. Is that enough? Okay, and then...
and about the support structure from the island government, yeah.
Oh yeah, and since April last year, what we did, because Best for Kids is a program, and it stops as a program. So what we made a support structure that is part of the island government, and it falls on the social domain, and there we will have then the pedagogical coach, the pedagogue, and also if there is the need for more training, that will be coordinated from that point. So what is now, we have a platform meeting almost every other week. We have meeting with all the centers, and then that will be then the responsibility of the island government, completely. Yeah, the subsidy now. That was taken into account from the beginning, and if you go back like 5 years ago, most of the centers got from the parents $200 a month, and that was what they had. To make a jump, now they have this year, if a child is the whole day in the daycare center, they get, I think it's $1,300 per month per child. So that's, how is that, and for the after school it is a little bit less because they are half day, but when it is vacation time they get for the whole day. But what is important, that then the center has a good administration. Because you cannot just say, okay, you know, I think I have 60 children, so I get subsidy for 60 children. You really have to prove that you have 60 children. You make an agreement with the parent, how many times per week your child is coming, etc. And then based on that, you get that money. And the amount is based on research that was done on all the islands, so also on station that was really spoken with all the centers, what are your expenses. So with that money they can pay for country vacation allowance if they want, they can pay the pedagogical workers the salary that they need, they can pay the rent, etc. It is up to them now to budget in the right way. Did you answer all? Oh, sorry.
I heard you in the last part of your response stating that they have enough money and it is up to them to pay, whether it's vacation money, Christmas bonus, even salaries. But in the law, isn't there a provision where that if you have a certain qualification in executing the job, that you have to pay the individual, just like, for instance, you will have minimum wage, or the government have different skills and all of that. Isn't this law regulating something like that? Because I don't know if I would want it to be solely up to the foundations themselves to determine the salaries. And then governments in the past did their best with the BCB in assisting, because the wages there was ridiculous. Mm-hmm. But now you are saying that monies are available. The federal government, if you may, maybe the government locally may have their role to play. But I'm saying that if you're putting all of these regulations, there's now a law, it would be complemented by an island ordinance. Then I believe that there must be something mandatory in place where scales should become the order of the day.
FBQ was good.
Because if some may be more qualified than others, but you just spoke about the different levels, where the leaders and the instructors, teachers have to go and constantly refresh and educate themselves. So if they are doing that, it's for me a vocation now, then I think there should be scales in place and not leaving it up to the foundation and the boards of those foundations to determine what pay it would get. But I think people should be compensated and paid salaries based with the relevant vacation allowances and whatever else. But that should be in place. That is what I would like to see in place.
Skills. That is an advice because it is up to the organizations how they use the skills. But that gives the workers the right to say, hey, but I am on this level, I'm functioning on this level, so I have the right to get this salary that way. And we have the FWG, the consultancy is working with us for some years already, and they are sitting again with all the centers individually to have these things right, that they have to contract with the workers right. Because sometimes they are losing a lot of money for legal procedures. And they have a legal advisor in their organization, so they are getting all this advice. It's not all of them always take all the advice, but that's up to them. And I wanted to react on one other thing you said about if the children are not there. If children, you have a list. You have a list that children maybe are absent, and you have to know that because maybe the child is sick or whatsoever. But the children are allowed, and you wouldn't stimulate that, but they can be 3 months absent and you still get paid. However, it is up to you as a center to see, hey, what is going on? Because this place is taken by a child who is not coming. And if the child can be sick, but it can be also so, and that is then in the agreement with the parent from, hey, we accommodate you, but you also have to keep a little bit to our rules. And the parents have to pay, because the parents pay something. They pay now $75 for daycare for the whole day, and for after school $40. If they cannot pay it, then there's also a way that they can, that they don't have to pay that, but then that amount goes to the center. So.
And parents pay per child $75.
Yes.
$75.
Then if you have parents, 3-4 children, and they're not in a position financially, how that is being addressed?
That we are going to look into, because...
But I think we're also, sorry, Angela, that we are already looking into that, because via the island government, there is the possibility to request kindergarten subsidy. So, sorry? Oh, okay. So there is a possibility to do that, and we have not many requests, very few, but there are parents who request, that they need assistance for that. Of course, before that can be done, there is an intake, and we really look to see, what is the household income, what is your output, what is the reasons that you cannot, cover the child care organization, but there is provision within the island government to cover that, if needed.
You're talking about the foundation, living up to the foundation. You spoke about some consultancy. You talk about legal fees, and I believe very often sometimes these consultants take up a chunk of the money what would be used in other areas. But as part of the consultancy's assignment, is there sort of Department of Personnel Affairs, Human Resources, that would be able to cater for salaries, like advising them with salaries and other benefits for the workers? Is that tied into the structure that you referred to?
The organization, the FVA, they have expertise in all of those areas. But Councilman, you questioned whether it could be mandatory to pay certain salaries. I don't know as an island government if we can regulate that in an ordinance or in a law. I believe that, and I could be wrong, but I believe that there at times there is a need for the organizations or for the employees also to look towards a collective labor agreement, because we can advise, based on your scale, this is what you're supposed to give, but I don't think government is in the position to impose on any organization, this is what you have to pay.
Yeah, that is
One final word on that. I am not suggesting that government should walk into private foundations or what have you and mandate what salary they should pay. But government must lead by example. And if government have laws where you have obligations in terms of minimum wages, exactly, you cannot have foundations whether they're getting money directly or indirect, because money is coming from Holland. At the end of the day, and they have the financial year, on their markup, on their book, they said so much was given the station for X amount of reasons across the spectrum. So while the government should not tell the foundation, but pay them maybe 3,000, there should be, like I said, there are these scales. Yeah. And you have to comply with that. Because if you're saying to me that the people are required, it's mandatory for them to follow these courses so that they will be equipped from an academic point of view to be able to stay as part of the organization and to administer whatever care that is required for the children, then I think they should pay them. And I'm seeing here, it happened in Curacao, because I know in the past as a member of parliament that we had foundations, organizations coming in and making complaint and asking government to step in. But I'm saying that it cannot be so, that we leave it totally up to the foundations and to pay the people what they want, because I saw that happen here on stage over the years. And the government have stepped in on several occasions in order to assist it. But if there is a law from the federal government, and you're asking the island government and the council to, complement this with an island order, and then for me, salaries that come going to demand and say, well, listen, we want our people to be adequately trained. I am going to be one that will speak out, whether from this pulpit or publicly, that the people be compensated accordingly and that they don't be taken advantage of, like has been the case over these years.
Okay, but this year we are working very hard on this to get to a CLA. And also what you mentioned, we are starting the negotiations with the pension funds also to see that. So we are working on it, but we wanted to start from scratch. First know what is your work, what qualifications you need. So all of that we have in place now. We have the salary scales. And then at a certain moment, if we have the CLA, but what you said, okay, that's up to the government if you want to make it mandatory. But at a certain moment, I think someone is going to look somewhere else and say, hey, but I have the same qualification as you and you get paid more than me, then I go there. So you get also kind of a competition, maybe. Were that all the questions? Special need,
Salaries and qualification, pension plan, and I think those were the questions.
All right, thank you, Councilman Van Putten. I got two questions of my own. I understand that you said at GVP school there were certain courses. Is that in their regular CXC system, the CVQ? So there's a qualification there specifically for child care. Yeah. And so adults who are working at the daycare centers, they can attend that course during their work time, during regular school time of GVP.
Because we didn't have such a course on station. We started in 2009. We had then with the director then of the GVP school and myself, we had contacts already from the time we started working with CXC and CVQ. We went in the region. We went Barbados, Trinidad, Jamaica to see how it's working there. And then we took one of those courses, the best one they have, a level 2, we call it CVQ, Early Childhood Development. And we negotiated then with OCW, RCN at that time, and we said, okay, but we have persons, if you do it for your students, you have, that's okay, but we need it for those who are working already and who have no qualifications. And then we got, we said, but it has to be paid. The first one we paid from our budget, from Best for Kids, but then we said, no, it should be in the regular subsidy. So it became then that when they have a cohort of 6 students, they can start with the course. They have to contact the ROADO that you are sure, yes, we need it, but we can also say we know where there is the need, and then they can start with a 2-year course. Then they get lessons, I think, on Friday morning and another day also, and they are supposed to get guidance also. So that went very well, the first course, but now we have, but I think that is not new, there are some challenges. But yeah, I don't know if I have to go in depth into that.
Okay.
But it is a course, it is a good course, and we really need it because this is the basic you need, and then you can build on with your level 3 and 4. And we can, level 3 and 4 we can get from abroad, but it is a pity if we have a school here that can do it, that we have to get that from another island.
You're saying the level 3 and 4 course you can also organize here on station?
Yes, but then with cooperation from the first, the level 3 we did with the NIPA on St. Maarten, and now the level 4 we do it with Eligia Martyr in Curaçao. Also English, because that is what they said before, you have to work with Bonaire. Bonaire doesn't have English courses. And this is for sure important for the workers who are working already. English is the most important. They also get English in that course, as a matter of fact.
My other question is about supply and demand. Is there sufficient space for parents who want to put children in daycare centers? Is there a shortage of space, locations? So are you able to accommodate the demand for attendance at the centers?
Yeah, so far we have, and we have a plan. We had it 5 years ago, but then with to make a new building for the out-of-school programs, and because of then we had the war in Ukraine start, and then the prices went high up because we had everything in place to start, and then we got the advice, wait 2 years, so now we waited the 2 years, so now the plan is back again, and I think Commissioner knows more about it, Carol, but anyway, we will start this year with building. So that is accommodation-wise.
That's for the out-of-school program.
Yeah, for the out-of-school program.
But for the childcare, for the childcare, at the moment, we have not heard from any one of the childcare organizations or from parents that there is scarcity of space.
Okay, thank you. And then finally, how many officially, how many childcare centers are there on the island operating?
6.
6 on the
There
island.
are 2 only for after school. There is one, Busy Bees Inn is for daycare and after school. Mechi's is also for daycare and has also some after school children. Then we have the Daughters of the King, they are, I mentioned already too, huh? And then we have the SDA, they have an early stimulation program for children from 3 to 4 years old, and we have Happy Kids, they have only children from birth to 4 years, so 6 in total.
Okay. And the total number of children attending these centers?
I think
That I don't know.
300?
About 300?
Yeah, I think it's quite good. I'm not so, yeah. No,
I'm not sure how many.
No, I will figure it out. I thought it is around 300.
Okay. All right, thank you. Is there a need for further deliberation on this? Mr. Van Putten?
Our faction, not the second round, but forgot, I wanted to ask as well. I saw you touch on it. I remember there was this big nice idea some years ago. I was involved as well, where we were talking about buildings. I think they even identified the areas in which we was going to set them up. But I'm wondering, what does the Ukraine war has to do if you make a commitment that you're going to finance these buildings for the islands which is needed? What the hell in God's name that Ukraine war has to do with money coming to the island to be able to finance and set up structures that are important for the well-being of the children of this island?
It was more than double. It was kind of ridiculous. It was like, okay, this is, and there was, at the end, there was only one bid done.
So we didn't have that money.
If I can clarify just
No,
a
but
bit more.
you didn't have the money, but the money was coming from the Netherlands.
Yeah.
And you said that it has to do with the Ukraine war. But I could imagine that, because I know there was a big discussion here, they spent a lot of unnecessary money trying to put drawings and all of that in place. We had young qualified Antillians from Curacao and St. Martin that came up with much better offers. I'm privy to that. And then we take some of Landridge's other proposal from elsewhere. You understand? So that had an impact and that delayed the whole thing. But now you are saying to me that it delayed because of the Ukraine war. So don't come and water it down, because if you tell me that, I'm going to hold you to that. I'm talking about Angela. Angela said about the Ukraine war. So I don't know what the Ukraine war has to.
Sorry. So yes, because of course, Island Councilman Van Putten, all the islands were recipients of monies from the ratio deal. And if I may, with the permission of the commissioner, I can say the amount? Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. So Statia would have been awarded the amount of 5.4 million for the building. However, when the tendering and everything was done, according to what Angela said, we only had one bid, and that bid was 12.4 million.
You're talking about to construct.
To construct, yes. So based on that, you know, we were advised, well, hold on, and Angela mentioned about the Ukraine war, because at that time the prices skyrocketed. Everything that you had to import, you know, to get this done, it was an amount that we could not accept, and we could not honor.
We're talking about the one bid. Was the bidding process, the information,
Yes.
very transparent?
Yes, very transparent. It went through all the procedures with the INCOPE department. The different contractors were called in, were contacted. Initially, I think we had 3 persons or 3 companies that showed interest. At the end of the day, only one submitted a proposal, even though the others were contacted after the set date to submit. They did not submit anything.
But now we are in the process again, and to see, okay, what the cost will be now.
Well, it might be more now because we have more wars and rumors of war. So I
Okay,
don't know.
thank you.
My explanation wasn't clear enough, sorry.
All right, so thank you for that presentation. So, yeah, so we would,
It's okay, no.
I asked if there were, okay, the opportunity still here.
Thank you, Chairman. I know for obvious reasons your choice of words was very careful. I think because we do these meetings publicly for public consumption and information, I feel it would be amiss of me not to say something when it regards a lot of what was said. This is not to offend, but this is for education purposes. I feel that in the essence of time, you didn't go deeper into the fact that level 2 is the bare minimum. And I feel the public needs to know that when you start at level 2, and that is the requirement, it means that your staff does not even have that. That needs to ring home to our people as well. You are starting at a bare minimum to give them somewhere to climb from. If a reference is made as well to our federal government and what they do, we also need to state what they do, and that we cannot compare, and that we should be glad that we can adapt it to our islands, because the Netherlands, as I know, demands level 5, a HBO. And when we're comparing it from level 2 to 5, there's a big difference. So therefore, we also cannot compare salaries. We need our young people to strive for more. And when we give them the impression that you can function at level 2 or not even and get a level 5 salary, we are sending the wrong message. So with the salary scales also come the education that requires that. When you speak about pedagogical development and observing a child with special needs or that has a different way of developing, like you stated, Ms. Decker, a level 2 is not capable of that. Let's be honest. Let's not further mislead our people, because then it's going to look like as if we are okay with not giving them what they deserve. With every level, there is an attached salary. And legally, minimum wage is what is legal. You cannot go below that. So when you pay the minimum wage, you are complying. And another thing I'm going to say for the essence of time, I won't go further, but vacation pay, end-year bonus is not a must. Legally, it is not a must. It is nice when it can be paid, but we cannot make it look like anybody that has a job in the private sector and is not getting these things, that they are functioning illegally. We have to address these things because people are misinformed and it causes a lot of confusion. So I'm happy for what you all are doing, that you all are raising the bar. But let's not send a message that people are being abused when it is attached with what you bring to the table as well. Thank you so much.
Want to respond, to react?
No, I don't want
No? Okay. All right, thank you, Ms. Jack and Mevrouw Dekker, for your presentation. Councilman Merkman, you have anything to add? Sorry, Commissioner Merkman. Okay. Okay. All right, since there's no need for further deliberation, I take it that the committee is sufficiently informed on this matter of the Child Care Ordinance, and so that it can be moved to the Island Council meeting for further handling. Without objection, then we will so decide. Right, and we go to agenda point number 7. It's the establishment of foundation for fundraising and contract fundraiser.
Oh, sorry, I changed the name.
Hmm?
The name changed for a minute. I forgot to change the establishment foundations digital.
That's a new agenda point.
Yeah.
Okay, I've been informed the agenda point is actually Framework Establishment Foundation Statia 2026. For this agenda point, we'll be handling the establishment of a foundation for fundraising and contract fundraiser. The agenda point relates to the Statia 2026 program. To further gain information on this agenda point, I would like to ask the responsible Commissioner of Culture, Ms. Richelene Leerdam, to further give her introduction to this agenda point. Commissioner Leerdam.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon to all. Good afternoon to all the honorable members of the Island Council. Today, we are here to present the updated statutes and profiles for the establishment of a foundation, tentatively named the Statia 2026 Foundation, for your endorsement. At the end of 2024, I came to this honorable body in a closed-door meeting to discuss the proposed establishment of such a foundation. Based on that discussion and the feedback received, where applicable, further work has been done, and we are now presenting you the updated version of the proposal. The Statia 2026 program consists of heritage, cultural projects, and development initiative to prepare our island for Statia Day 2026 and to strengthen long-term social and economic benefits. In addition to the 6 Region Deal projects, which are funded through the Region Deal, several non-Region Deal projects, which will be listed and explained in the upcoming presentation, require external funding, which we are sourcing externally. Many Dutch and international donors only provide funding to independent, non-governmental foundations. At present, St. Eustatius has no such entity specifically to deal with managing the funds for Statia 2026. To address this, establishing the foundation will serve as a central vehicle for managing donor contributions and supporting these cultural and heritage initiatives. With your permission, Mr. Chair, I would like to pass the floor to the Region Deal Program Managers, Mr. Remy Richardson and Ms. Nicola Sin, who will give a presentation. We do hope to receive your support on the proposed foundation for the success of these projects. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Good afternoon. All right, good afternoon. The Commissioner already introduced you, so if you can please introduce yourselves and your roles, and then you can make your presentation.
Thank you very much, Chair Schmidt. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having us. My name is Remy Richardson. I am the Program Manager for the Regional Deal, Statia 2026.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Chair Smith. My name is Nicole Asin, and I'm also a dual program manager together with Remy Richardson for the Region Deal Statia 2026.
So, as Commissioner said, today we will be presenting on the foundation that is needed to carry out the completion of the wonderful plans that we have for St. Eustatius. And to begin, of course, we will give a brief introduction. We all know the projects of the Regional Deal, Statia 2026. It consists of a multiple of projects. The main projects that are covered by the Regional Deal are the Tourism Master Plan, the Integrated Health and Living Care Center, that is the fusion between the hospital and the auxiliary home, the refurbishment of Fort Orania, the Madam Theater, which is also part of the program, the National Memorial Park at the Battery, Rotterdam and Fort Amsterdam, and of course the revitalized Botanical Garden. These are the 6 main projects that are funded directly by the Regional Deal, which was requested by St. Eustatius some 2 years ago. The projects are underway, but of course outside of the Regional Deal projects, there are a number of projects that does not have any funding at the moment, and that is why we're here to discuss the forming of this foundation. So the non-regional deals, of course, is the Museum Fort Orania. As Fort Orania will be refurbished in the future, of course, we want to bring more livability back to the city center, and one of those projects is the museum that will be stationed in the largest building, followed by some other offices and facilities in that building as well, where funding will be needed. Of course, the benchmark year for Statia 2026, the conservation of the underwater and natural environment, which is for the island very significant, so the promotion of the island's nature, but also the diving, and of course the African burial ground and the global tribute to our ancestry, followed by documentaries exploring our island and the island's history, etc., and of course an expo exchange between Statia and other partners. All of these are part of the non-regional deal projects, which currently has no funding. So about the foundation, of course, the primary objective of the foundation, of course, is the responsible for the practical implementation of the Station 2026 program and the regional deal. And it's actually to ensure the deliver responsibility and transparency for the interests of the people of St. Eustatius that will eventually benefit the entire island and all existing institutions as well, including government. And of course, here you can read in depth in the PowerPoint the full objectives of the establishment of the foundation. What will the foundation look like, of course? The foundation, of course, will have the ability to source for funding, and the foundation may secure funding from different parties. To start, we already have the base funding already lined up. The first pledges have been made already to fund this foundation, so the money is technically parked on the side, waiting for the establishment of the foundation. The foundation can act also as that bridge where government cannot reach. So of course, many times when it comes to subsidies, etc., government does not always have first chance to apply for these subsidies, but a foundation can. And with this foundation, of course, we would be able to make all of this possible. And of course, when we look at the foundation, we can apply for grants and subsidies, private donations, contributions, and sponsorships, various bequests. Of course, all of this will be lawful, and it is placed in the governance structure in Article 5 that each of you received here today. But what will the foundation look like? Of course, it will have a managing board, which is outlined in Article 6 of the documents also presented to everyone here, and a supervisory board. The foundation will be properly managed and overseen also by the supervisory board. And the board shall comprise of 1 or 2 individuals, of course, of legal age. So we will, of course, follow the full lines of good governance when it comes to the structuring of the entire foundation. So the purpose of the foundation, of course, the role of the foundation is, of course, for Station 2026. With saying Station 2026, we would like to make it clear that is the benchmark year. We are focusing on Station and onwards. So 2026, we see as the base year for greatness, and this is where this foundation will play a major role. So of course, this foundation will work closely with all already established foundations on the island. Of course, we will execute the temporary projects that are needed and associated with the regional deal and the non-regional deal projects. We will also develop and implement the entire cultural landscape here on St. Eustatius, and we will also serve mainly in the economic interests and initiatives of the public entity and the community of St. Eustatius, and to both raise the bar on how private and public fundings are managed here on St. Eustatius. And it is important to note that the foundation, of course, is of a temporary nature, but we will get back to more of that as we go through this presentation. So the foundation primarily focus, as I stated, work closely with all the already existing local institutions, organizations, and the community at large, of course, and ensure that station history, culture, and identity are central in this program, and promote the inclusion and the broad social participation, of course, and strengthen the local capacity where needed. Of course, we all know the current state of institutions and establishments on the island. This is not to replace any of them, but it is to strengthen what is already there and to build on that for the future. Transparency and accountability. So the Station 2026 Foundation, we will, of course, prepare annual reports and financial statements, provide regular progresses and financial reports to the entire community and the general public, and of course government, and ensure public accountability for the use of these funds. And of course, we will operate within the deed of incorporation and the applicable regulations that we are under. A new foundation. So I know everyone is probably here thinking we already have a lot of foundations on the island. You know, what comes next? What will happen after this foundation? So as I previously said in the first slide, this foundation is temporary. It's a branch to reach out, to extend into the corners where government normally cannot reach when it comes to funding. To give you an example, of course, there is still the pledge from the Dutch National Bank, which is something that only works with foundations. That Sint Eustatius to date is the only island that has not tapped into these funding as yet. There's also EU funding and various fundings that can help the public projects as well excel. The establishment of the foundation is mainly also to finish the non-regional deal projects, and of course the mandate and the final accountability will also be handed over, and all of the remaining assets are in line with the foundation objectives, and of course the foundation will, as we say in Dutch, ophouden te bestaan when all the funds have been depleted and dried up. So once again, it is of a temporary nature. It is that bridge between almost getting to the finish line that is urgently needed as we excel past the benchmark year of Statia 2026. And of course, before I present the last slide, when it comes to the members of the foundation, of course, there is a full profile which has been given to you by the Office of the Island Registry. So there is a profile of qualifications, of course, that is needed. And of course, if you look at the profile list that was given in the governance framework, you will also notice that there is a possibility that some members will have multiple functions, or as we say in Dutch, voldoet aan alle eisen. Om lid te zijn van deze foundation. So it's possible that someone checks all the marks and then can be on side. And of course, all the requirements to be a part of this foundation is there. We do not want to have just anyone, as I said. We really want to make this a success because this is of a temporary nature with public money, and it will be closed off once the foundation has completed all of its tasks. So the idea of this foundation, of its temporary nature, is the foundation guarantees a long and lasting positive legacy for the island of Sint Eustatius and help contributes, as Commissioner Leerdam said, to the socio-economic development of the island of Sint Eustatius. Thank you very much.
Mevrouw Assien, no presentation from you?
I don't have a...
Not a separate presentation. Okay, thank you.
The message from both of us.
All right, thank you. That's clear. All right, so we'll go in the deliberation on this agenda point. Same procedure, we will deliberate in 2 rounds. Speaking time, 20 minutes first round, 10 minutes second round. For this agenda point, I want to suggest that we state all our questions. You can note the questions of the members, and at the end of the round, you can answer all the questions. So we will start. We'll start with Council Lady Spanakati in the first round.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have some questions regarding the foundation members, the application process, in the sense of who decides, the transparency of it. Will it be published like any other vacancy, and per when? That is it for me.
Thank you, Council Lady Spanakati. Councilman Van Putten? Nothing. Okay. All right, I don't have no question at this point either. So, if you can answer the question of Mevrouw Council Lady Spanakati.
So, thank you, Council Lady Spanakati, for your question. So, of course, the vacancies will be published publicly in all news outlets, government, local newspapers, every form of media that we can use to get it out there. So this ensures, of course, a fair process for everyone. And as you noticed in the articles that was presented to everyone here, you will see that we are extending it to get the best possible candidates, so it can also apply for stations living abroad, for example. So it's not only for stations living on the island, but also stations in the Netherlands, the United States, or Curacao. We really want to get the best candidates, so that's why we are thinking a bit outside of the box.
Commissioner, you want to say something?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Also, just to finalize the part, once we get the approval in the Island Council, then we can start the process of finalizing the establishment of the foundation. So they have to get the approval of the Island Council. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. All right, so do you need a second round follow-up?
Missed the part on who decides, who chooses when these applications come in. How does it go?
Thank you very much, Council Lady Spinacarte. So we did not discuss this, of course, as yet, because we are now looking for the go-ahead to establish the foundation. So once the foundation, of course, is established and we have that blessing, then part two would be to get down to the nitty-gritty to present, for example, who chooses now who goes on to this foundation and who doesn't make the list.
Commissioner Leda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think also to add to what the program manager said, the initial establishment will be done via the Executive Council, and after that, once the names are then approved in the Executive Council, then the foundation will be established and then becomes totally independent after that. Government will not have a role in terms of being a governmental foundation, so it's just to establish it, but it still becomes an independent foundation after. We will then talk about setting up a Werving committee. We can discuss a Werving committee and see how we can make a proper committee. And we will get back to the Island Council on that when it comes to the Werving committee. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I understand, I still want to ask, understand that the foundation is a temporary foundation. Is it, you say it will cease to exist once all the funds are expended?
Yes.
Yes, so there's, in the statute, there's no time frame for when the foundation will cease to exist?
There's not a time frame that has been listed.
Okay. All right. Anything else from members?
Sorry, one additional question. The board and the supervisory board, they will be requesting funding in our name. It's for Stacia. How does that go with liability and again transparency? Will someone from government receive reporting? Will transparency, some kind of internal control will be implemented to keep track?
So there is also a transparency and accountability for this foundation, of course. As stated, of course, you know, we are talking about projects that are government-owned, such as, you know, or semi-government-owned or used, such as Fort Orania and the museum that will be coming there, etc., and all of the cultural heritage projects to stimulate the economy. So, of course, the annual budgeting and financial statements will be made public and accessible for all those who require them or would like to see them, but we will also provide regular process updates on the financial reports as well, and also ensure that accountability of these use of funds can be also backed up. And all of this will be operating within the line of the deed of incorporation and all of the regulations that we fall under in our current construct.
That's it, Council Lady. All right, then I think your message is very clear. There are no further questions. So unless the Commissioner has something else to add, then we thank you folks for the presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so I ask this committee if they've been sufficiently informed regarding this agenda point on the establishment of the framework, Establishment Foundation Station 2026, and so that it can be moved to the Island Council meeting. Dates slated here for February 5th for further handling. Yeah, so without objection, then we will send this on to the Island Council for further handling. And that concludes one more agenda point, number 8, which is announcements from the Executive Council. One more point relating to the public section. Executive Council, any announcements?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right, there's no announcement from the Executive Council. And so we conclude here the public portion of this Central Committee meeting. So I would like to thank everyone for their participation in today's public meeting, and also the technical team for their assistance. The public part Central Committee for today, the 22nd of January, has now ended. The Council Committee will now proceed to the closed-door session. Please be informed that we will not be returning with any further live broadcasts. So thank you for joining us, and we will now close this public session of the Central Committee meeting for today.